part 4 to what if Naruto had his own dojutsu called Juryugan. Anyway, let's get right into it and start this video. Anyway, Naruto is walking back up to the stands, and that is when all the fights go down just like how they did in canon. And then the last fight is still Sasuke's because Sasuke was late, but he wasn't nearly as late as in canon. The whole, being late to the fight. He was late for when his fight was first announced, and they said, oh, we'll just push it back. He showed up during the next fight, and that is when they were like, okay, Sasuke's fight will go down. Sasuke versus Gaara is a little different than in canon, just due to the fact that Sasuke actually has more of an evolved Sharingan. His Sharingan's more evolved than it was before. Rather than having having two Tomoe and one Tomoe Sharingan, he has both of his eyes have the two Tomoe Sharingan. So he is like seeing how the sand is working a bit better, and he also has access to his chakra because of the whole Naruto sealing both his own and Sasuke's curse marks. They both have the same curse mark, and I'm gonna say that Sasuke actually practiced with manipulating it. So over the training, the 1 month training period, he actually practiced with manipulating it. So when he ran up and he tried hitting Gaara, he missed. So he tried using the curse mark on purpose, and it went over his entire body, around half of his body, kind of like how when he fought Naruto at the Valley of the End, it was half of his body and his eye was black, but rather than his eye being black, it's just half his body has the markings. Naruto, seeing this, activated his Juryugan to see what was going on because he wanted to know what happened, and he noticed hey, that mark actually extended out and it's boosting him. So he used his Juryugan to see into the chakra specter, which is something the Sharingan, Byakugan, and Juryugan can do. And he noticed that Sasuke's chakra had a third element in it. Normal chakra is just made out of physical and spiritual energies, and this had something else in it, and he identified it as natural energy. But the natural energy was very low. It wasn't actually enough natural energy to put him into what most people refer to as sage mode, or into imperfect sage mode, because his body didn't have enough natural energy in it. But it was boosting his overall stats, mainly his strength, speed, stamina, and all of his jutsu, along with his processing power, so he could actually... So it was more like he had the 3 Tomoe Sharingan, rather than just the 2 Tomoe Sharingan. So he started just running around in a circle, kind of like how Lee did in his fight with Gaara. But he ran around in a circle, and he was much faster than Lee when he had his weights on anyway. Because he had the boost from the curse mark, which he did not have in canon. He then tried hitting Gaara, but he got whipped away by the sand, so he charged up a Chidori, but rather than being up on the wall like he was in canon, he was actually only a couple meters away, and he charged up a Chidori, ran around behind Gaara, and he ran forward and smacked into the sand. Gaara hadn't actually done the whole, making the sand dome thing, so the Chidori just cut right through the sand and went straight through Gaara's entire shoulder, just like how it did to Naruto in canon during the Valley of the End fight. So obviously Naruto being holy shit, he's getting better, he was watching, really, really, really anticipating it. And that's when Gaara screamed in pain, and the sand kind of whipped Sasuke away. But since his arm was inside of Gaara's shoulder, he was kind of staying there, just being pummeled by the sand. Gaara then was like, really mad, like just how he was in canon. He forcefully ripped the hand out of his Sasuke's hand out of his shoulder and threw him with just physical brute strength. And then he began to go into his tailed beast mode. He just casted the whole possum like the play possum jutsu, which just forcibly puts you to sleep, which then literally immediately caused Shikaku to try to take control. He started slowly morphing into Shikaku, so he was in that like kind of half Shikaku form with like the giant arm and the tail, but he wasn't actually like the full Shikaku yet. And that's when Konoha Rush started. The Genjutsu fell on everyone fell asleep, and that is when Naruto was like, okay, I didn't get affected by the Genjutsu because of my visual, like because of my Dojutsu, and Sasuke knew that it was because of his Sharingan. Sakura was there in the stands, and she was like trying to wake everyone up, like smacking them, but she wasn't doing anything. So Naruto actually released the gravity on his body to get to the little arena fight faster. He put it back on when he got there, because he ran down the stairs to get there, so he actually like took it off and then put it back on. Then Gaara had mostly transformed into the Shikaku, and then he started shooting off sand bullets and air bullets and all that shit. And that's when Naruto was like, yeah, screw this, and he used his gravity to pin him down with all of his legs, and his arms were outspread kind of like a star. Like his arms were outspread, and he was like couldn't get up because of the gravity. So he tried using his tail. The tail was then pinned to his back until he became the full the full One Tails. Sheesh, I just forgot its name. Jesus Christ. But anyway, so he became the full One Tail, and that's when Naruto was like, oh yeah, fuck this. He did the whole summoning jutsu. He summoned Gamabunta, and he was like, yo, Gamabunta, we gotta fight this thing. And Gamabunta was like, well, you're gonna need to wake up his Jinchuriki. You're gonna need to wake him up. And he pointed towards Gaara. And that is when the whole thing, like in canon, came across. And they fought and fought and fought. And then, like, a bunch of ninja were awake and they've seen the whole fight. And Naruto used his Juryugan to basically lift him up into the air and kind of hold him over top. He jumped up and punched Gaara in the head, waking him up, which caused Shikaku to dissipate, and actually, like, he completely just went away, just like in canon. And Gaara and Naruto both fell to the ground. Naruto landed on his feet, and Gaara landed on his back. Gamabunta then, like, disappeared, going back to Mount Myoboku, and then Naruto was like, aha, let's see if you can still fight. Gaara's little sand thing had cracked completely open, so all of the sand in his little gourd thing over his back was gone. That's when Kankuro and Temari showed up and started defending him from Naruto and Sasuke, but they were easily just knocked out. And that's when Naruto talked no jutsu to him into being a good guy, being like, dude, literally, these two right here are risking their lives to protect you. Not to protect your demon, to protect you. They were being like, we need to protect Gaara, not we need to protect the weapon. So, he successfully talked no jutsu'd Gaara into being a good guy, just like in canon. And then, like, the whole thing with Sarutobi fighting against Orochimaru was about to start. It hadn't started yet, but it was about to. Naruto seen that the Sound Four had were in a kind of formation, and he seen that they were all putting chakra into something, so he jumped up to knock one of them out, taking Jirobo down with just a kick to the face. Jirobo got a big ass kick to the face with because Naruto had released his gravity, he got a humongous kick to the face, and he fell backwards off of that roof thing. So the Sound Four actually couldn't put up their barrier. Naruto then went inside and seen that Sarutobi was in his battle armor, and he was just about to start fighting Orochimaru. The whole fight goes down, and then Naruto was like, yeah, let me get in on this. That's when the Sound 4, well, I guess Sound 3 at this point, the 3 Sound 4 members that were still up, made a barrier in a triangular shape rather than their box shape that they were doing it in. And that's when Orochimaru brought back the first and second Hokages. They obviously weren't nearly as strong as they were when they were alive, but Sarutobi took down the second Hokage, and he was fending off Orochimaru at the same time, while Naruto was using his gravity manipulation and gravity bullets at the same time, which was taking a lot out of him, and basically completely rendered Hashirama immobile, and Hashirama was basically down permanently. Naruto then used gravity to pull Orochimaru away from Sarutobi, and he basically pulled him right up towards him, and that's when Orochimaru did his little mouth sword thingy, and it came out of his mouth, and he was coming up trying to stab Naruto. Naruto being like, yeah, no, fuck that. He took the gravity and he moved him right to the side. Orochimaru tried whipping around, and that's when Naruto used a gravity shield, and the sword was stopped, and Naruto actually grabbed the blade, not on the edge, but he grabbed the sword blade and tried pulling it into the gravity, and he took his fist, put chakra into it, and he actually karate chopped the blade off, and then he took the blade and slashed off one of Orochimaru's arms. Orochimaru doing the whole regurgitating his body thing to have a perfectly fine body, came out being perfectly fine, and that's when Naruto had an amazing idea. Rather than what was done in canon, where, old man did the whole Reaper Death Seal going out in a blaze of glory, Naruto did the 8 trigram seal in style to seal away his ability to use chakra in his arms, because rather than just his arms, he was trying to get his whole body, so he put the seal right around his chest, and it had got there, but Orochimaru, using the last little ounce of chakra, was able to split it in 2, which went onto his arms, nullifying from using his arms, just like in canon, just without the risk, without the whole Lord Third dying. So Orochimaru lost the ability to use his arms, and then he just started hightailing it out of there, and Naruto yeeted him back using the freaking gravity. But then the chakra strain and his eyes had evolved to their fourth and final state, where they had 4 waves in them, just like how in the picture that has been on screen all the entire most of the time, he has the eyes. Those are his eyes, and basically, the 4 waves in them meant that they were fully developed, but when they were fully developed, they took so much chakra. He had used so much chakra during his fight with Neji, and then fighting against the first Hokage, and then trying to get rid of Orochimaru's arms and all that. He had used so much chakra that his Judygon deactivated, and his gravity so the gravity that he was trying to haul Orochimaru back with was just gone, so Orochimaru ended up getting away. Naruto's gravity on his body came back, since Naruto has it automatically set, so that he has to release it. It's more like a seal than his eyes actually manually doing it. It's more like an automatic thing. So Naruto being like, hey, At least we got rid of his, like, dangerousness. He can't use his arms at all. Obviously, Hiruzen was like, yeah, that's better than nothing. He had taken out the second Hokage and, like, the first Hokage. So the second and first Hokages were both out, and they were both, like, back to being nothing but piles of dust. And that's when Hiruzen was like, yeah, well, we're gonna have to go wake everybody up. And basically, a giant cut happens, and then we're about an hour or two in the future, and it's in a council meeting with the council, like the Shinobi Council and the Civilian Council. Naruto is there, and so is Sasuke. Since Sasuke helped take down Temari and Kankuro, and Naruto took down Gaara and helped take down, like, the first Hokage and almost take down Orochimaru, dealing a massive blow to Orochimaru. So the two of them and Shikamaru were all rewarded. Shikamaru was Chunin, Naruto was Jonin, and Sasuke was Jonin as well, because of how well they were fighting, and the fact that that Naruto had Judyugan, which he had actually showed was fully developed, and that curse mark, Sasuke didn't know how to, like, be like, oh yeah, this is the curse mark. Yeah, Orochimaru kind of gave it to me, so he didn't do anything about that. And that's when Jiraiya came in being like, I heard what happened, because he was outside of the village at the time. He was at one of the hot springs or something, and he never heard about the whole attack on the leaf until someone came and got him, since, like, a shinobi team was sent out to get him. He came back and he was in the council meeting, and he was like, Naruto, did you do something? Because why are you in here with the council? And that's when Sarutobi was like, Naruto saved not only my life, but also stopped Shikaku, the one-tailed beast. And everyone in the room was stone cold silent, except for Naruto giggling a little, like he was, like, proud of himself. Jiraiya was just there, stunned, speechless. And Sakura's mom was yelling at Naruto, being like, utterly preposterous, like the demon couldn't have done anything but help this fight. And that's when Hiruzen was like, shut up, Haruno. And obviously Haruno, not wanting to get on the bad side of the Hokage, since, you know, he was releasing killer instinct, he was, like, releasing bloodlust, she sat right down and shut up. Naruto was still giggling, and then Jiraiya actually came over and put his hand on Naruto's head, rubbing his head like, you know, how a father would. And he was like, good job, dude. The Shinobi Council had all agreed to make Naruto a Jonin and Sasuke a Jonin as well. And the Civilian Council... So, the Shinobi Council voted for Naruto to become a Jonin when the Civilian Council said no. And the Civilian Council said that Sasuke should be a Jonin when the Shinobi Council said no. And the Hokage was like, we'll make them both Jonin. There you go. They're still going to be on the same team as when they were Genin, but, you know, you can't really do much about that. And that's when the whole thing with, like, that's when a whole thing happened, and Hiruzen was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna need to retire. We're gonna need someone to replace me. And he asked Jiraiya. Jiraiya was like, yeah, no, I turned down that job already. I don't need it. And Jiraiya being like, yeah, I don't need to be Hokage. I don't want it. So he said, why don't we get Tsunade? Naruto obviously being like, who's Tsunade? Everyone was like, oh, she's one of the 3 legendary Sannin, just like Jiraiya here and Orochimaru, the guy who attacked us. So Naruto, being, you know, the kind of uppity, bubbly guy he was like, yeah, sure, let's go get Tsunade. So, unlike in canon, where Orochimaru went off to try to get Tsunade to heal his arms, his arms are sealed rather than just being like in the belly of the Reaper, which is still a seal, but he didn't he didn't think that Tsunade could unseal them. So he was going through his options, and then he was like, might as well go to Tsunade because, well, And then he found her last known location. Literally everything happens just like in canon, but Naruto, rather than being taught the Rasengan and the fact that Sasuke was there, they both tried working on their dojutsus. Naruto had his active the entire time and basically started shooting off shooting off gravity bolts, knocking down trees and all that, basically just trying to get better at using the gravity bullets because he wasn't very good at using them. He could only make 3 or 4 at a time and shoot them off, and they'd have to explode before he could make another one, so he couldn't shoot it rapid fire. And Sasuke was there, just had his Sharingan active, trying to build up the time limit so that it would set to the 3 tomoe. And the whole, big thing happened, just like in canon. So they got to the freaking place where they were gonna meet Tsunade. They met Tsunade at the bar, pretty standard stuff. And that's when the whole Itachi knocking on the door controversy started, and Naruto, noticing that, hey, that's not Pervy Sage's chakra, he was like, Sasuke, don't open that door, give me a sec. Made a shadow clone, and the shadow clone opened the door, and he told Sasuke to hide in the closet, and he hid behind the door. So the shadow clone opened the door, and he seen it was Itachi. Sasuke seen it was Itachi, Naruto seen it was Itachi, and he knew who Itachi was. So he made a Rasengan in his hand. Itachi didn't hear this because the Rasengan is actually extremely quiet. That, even if I was in, a dark-ass room and, the Rasengan was covered and I was the only one in there, I wouldn't even be able to hear it myself. So, he made the Rasengan. He kicked the door shut, slamming it right into Itachi's face, and he blew the door open with a Rasengan, which actually smacked Kisame in the face. Itachi was able to dodge, but it smacked Kisame right in the face, and basically made Kisame, it made him bleed, and it was like, oh god, my face. He was in pain. That's when Sasuke generated a Chidori. Obviously, this one you could hear because it's extremely loud. So he ran out from the exploded door and tried cutting, he tried, slashing at Itachi with the Chidori. Itachi just grabbed his arm and, lifted him up by the throat, just like in canon. But this time, Naruto was right behind Itachi and smacked him in the back of the head with a big-ass punch to the face. With a big-ass punch to the back of the head. Then, grabbed his eyes and, jabbed his fingers into them. And that basically shut down Itachi's biggest strength, and that was his Mangekyo Sharingan, and, his Sharingan in general, since Naruto didn't know what the Mangekyo was. He didn't properly know what it was. He just knew that it was a buff to the normal Sharingan. So the whole thing goes down, and the whole, Itachi thing goes down, and that's when Jiraiya shows back up. It's pretty much exactly what it was like in canon, just Naruto ended up knocking out Kisame with his gravity and stuff, and, Sasuke still got his ass handed to him. So, they found Tsunade, the whole thing like in canon happened, but rather than, Sasuke being knocked out, like in canon, he was completely conscious, and he actually helped defeat Kabuto. So, Naruto made a Rasengan and tried slamming it into Kabuto. Pretty much as soon as they got there, he jumped in and tried slamming a Rasengan into Kabuto. It missed, and that's when that's when Sasuke came up from underground and chopped at Kabuto's leg, cutting one of his legs off with his Chidori. And that's when Kabuto was like, "Oh, fuck, damn it, god, fuck." And he picked up his leg, put it back on, and used medical ninjutsu to try to seal it back on. It worked, but he couldn't move his leg and he was in a lot of pain. So he used his little chakra scalpel things to try to get rid of Naruto and Sasuke to try to stop their heart. Naruto was like, "Yeah, no, screw that." Started using his gravity and shot off bullets right at Kabuto, and it basically just pummeling him to a pulp with a big ass lot of gravity bullets. Sasuke was really mad because of the whole Naruto being stronger than him and the whole, So, after they got back to the village, she took on the job of Hokage because, she was forced to and blah, blah, blah. And that is when, the whole Sasuke ditched the village at night. Rather than it happening sooner, it happened later than usual, but it still happened. The whole Sound 4 fiasco happened, and basically, he was pretty pissed. He went out, he had a good day head start because he went out at night and no one noticed until the next day. So he had a good 12-hour head start over Naruto and them. The same team was set to bring him back. And, literally everything happened just like in canon. Naruto went after Sasuke, they met at the Valley of the End. Literally everything is the identical thing as in canon. Naruto was right there at the Valley of the End. Everything happened like in canon, their fight, everything. But during their fight, Naruto activated his Judygon and started, busting out big-ass attacks with the gravity. And that whole, getting his shoulder shoved in never happened because the gravity shield was up at the time. So, he actually didn't sustain as much damage. The whole Rasengan Chidori clash at the end happened, but rather than Naruto being in the one-tailed state, he was only in KN0. So he wasn't actually in the whole one-tailed chakra cloak state, but he was in the, he had the QB's red eye chakra mode kind of thing. And that's when he made a Rasengan and added in the gravity. He used gravity bullets and basically made a Rasengan on top of them, and they fused into, a purple Rasengan rather than the normal blue one. Him and Sasuke jumped at each other. They smashed into each other with the Rasengan Chidori clash. Obviously, Sasuke came out as the victor. Naruto was unconscious. And then the whole 3-year training skip happens. And this is when the whole Naruto and Pervy Sage training for 3 years. Naruto didn't make the same promise as he did in canon to Sakura. He was just trying to get Sasuke back because Sasuke and him were actually friends in this one. They weren't just Naruto wasn't just "Oh, but we're friends, dude." They were actually good friends in this one, and Sasuke even acknowledged that, but he wanted more power so that he could defeat Itachi. So the whole thing happens just like in canon. Naruto goes to Mount Bio, but rather than Naruto just working on his Rasengan and stuff for 3 years, he worked on his Judygon, his Rasengan, because he was using shadow clones to exponentially speed up the process. And that's when Pervy Sage actually gave him Sage mode. He was about 14 when he started his training for Sage mode. And only a few weeks into the process, he was a perfect Sage mode user. So he used Sage Mode, and he tried stacking the curse mark on top of it. And he looked down at his own chakra, which most chakra is, like, directly in the stomach. That's, like, the source of it. He looked down at his chakra, and he actually seen that it had 4 different components. What he was assuming was natural energy when Sasuke did it actually wasn't. Because, like, in the original, the curse mark actually does suck in natural energy, but it changes it in a way so that it's not actually natural energy. So it was able to be stacked on top of Sage Mode. So Naruto learned that he could go into perfect Sage Mode, activate his Judyugan, and use the curse mark all at the same time. And here's something that Naruto was able to do by using his clones, is he forcibly moved his curse mark into the second stage of the curse mark. Because you know how so the curse mark has 2 stages. Its first stage, which is just the curse mark that Orochimaru gives you. The markings extend out over your body to whatever degree, and it buffs your power however much it extends out. And the curse mark basically just buffs you in your physical abilities. And then there is the second stage of the curse mark that actually, like, it changes your skin to, like, a different color, usually being a gray or a red. And then it can give you extra appendages like horns or like a tail or something. And Sasuke got wings out of his. Naruto and Sasuke have the same curse mark, but they're not going to have the same secondary form because, like, no one has the same secondary form. But the only person to ever naturally achieve the second stage of the curse mark is the one who the curse mark was originally made from. His name is Jugo. Everyone who has watched through Naruto Shippuden should know who Jugo is, who's watched through the entirety of Naruto Shippuden. The curse mark was made from Jugo's, like, a DNA. Jugo and his clan are able to passively absorb natural energy, and it changes into something else that is just called curse mark energy in the story. And it's basically just natural energy with a bit of added muck in it. And it changes their appearance significantly. Jugo and, like, his clan are the only ones to ever basically obtain the curse mark, like, air quotes there because it's not actually the curse mark, it's something else, but to ever obtain its second stage, because that's what theirs does. But Jugo has the added benefit of being able to change his body's layout based on what's going on. So he uses, like, a type of jet propulsion when he activates his Kekkei Genkai, which basically just straight up is not fair. It isn't. It is, like, super broken. And he uses it for big-ass attacks. So, like, he's the only person to ever naturally get the second stage of the curse mark. But Naruto forced it to become its second stage, which actually put a huge strain on his body, since that day he was in Sage Mode, and he deactivated Sage Mode when he did this. So it put an enormous strain on his already tired body from activating Sage Mode and already using, like, a ton of chakra in that. And only having, like, the first stage of the curse mark active. Since, like, literally all of his clones can use Sage Mode and use the curse mark, he's basically just, like, a buff dude. Like, he's basically just a lot better. Everything, like, in canon happens with the whole training and stuff. Naruto gets better at using the Rasengan. He gets better at using his Judyugan. He gets better at using Sage Mode since he learned it. And he actually forced his curse mark to become second stage of the curse mark. Sasuke had actually taken the Mind Awakening pills, so he had the second stage of the curse mark unnaturally. He had to use the Mind Awakening pills. But he had his second stage of the curse mark, which gave him those like cool wings that had like they were kind of hands that like were formed in wings. And like Naruto ended up getting his to be more like Jugo's because he naturally developed it. So he could just change his skin color, or he could add extra little appendages and stuff, which he typically did tend to do on purpose, and he used to give himself a type of tail. It was often a wolf's tail, which he could change into like a monkey tail or a fox tail or something, and he usually used it as a way to smack his enemies, because like he did get into a couple fights with people outside of the village when he was on his training with the pervy sage. So, after about, after those 3 years, he got back to the village. The whole, like, thing with him, like, talking to Sakura and Sai and all of them. Sakura was like, "You're still a Genin, right?" And Naruto was like, "No, I'm a Jonin." And everyone was like, "Wait, what? You were gone for 3 years. How are you a Jonin?" And he was like, "Oh, I was a Jonin before I left." Obviously, Naruto being very, very, very upbeat, he was able to, he got back. The whole thing with, like, the whole Kazekage rescue arc ended up starting with a letter coming in saying that they needed help for the Kazekage. They ended up getting to the Sand Village, and Kankuro was poisoned, so Sakura ended up doing the whole extracting the poison thing. They went off to the whole thing, and basically everything happened just like in canon, but Naruto, using the two-tailed mode, ended up actually seriously wounding Deidara. So Deidara got his arm sewn back on. So Deidara got his arm blown off by Kakashi, and then he got his leg like slashed off by Naruto using like his gravity to pull him back. He slashed off Deidara's leg. So yeah, they revived him and all of that stuff. And it's basically just everything like in canon, just with Deidara losing his leg as well as his arm. Except he's unable to retrieve his arm in this one because he had to retrieve his leg, which was being guarded by a two-tailed, pissed the fuck off Naruto. So, he had to stealthily get it using Earth Style because that is one of his affinities. And, yeah, so, he basically just, went back to a different base, got Kakuzu to reattach his limb. Kazekage, Gaara was saved. And, basically, everything was fine and dandy. And everything happens like in canon until, when was it? Until the whole, Naruto, Naruto meets up with Sasuke again. So, most of Shippuden's beginning parts are, filler. The Kazekage rescue arc wasn't, but it was still kind of filler because it wasn't anything to progress the plot. It was just oh yeah, Kazekage died. So anyway, the whole Three Tails filler part happens and all of that happens until they end up finding Sasuke, and that whole Sasuke being so overpowered that he actually scares Naruto half to death doesn't happen. Naruto and Sasuke are both around equal at this point, but the whole him coming down with his sword and basically getting told not to do it by Orochimaru all happens, but Naruto isn't speechless. He's kind of there stone-faced, just like Sasuke is. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave off the video. Please tell me if, please comment what is a different what if you want me to do, because I'm actually planning on, I'm still going to be doing, the whole doju, what if Naruto had a dojutsu, and I'm going to, until it's, done, and I'm going to be doing the whole what if Naruto was full Uzumaki still, and I'm actually going to start a new one pretty soon, what if Naruto had a twin sister, that one's going to be fun. But tell me if there's any more ones that you want me to do. Please comment it down below. Also, subscribe to my channel, because I am just getting onto this platform and I want to grow my channel some. So just keep in mind that, yeah, different what ifs are going to be coming your way. Also, I'm going to start doing My Hero Academia what ifs, so be sure to keep that in mind. And I'm just going to say, if you're boy, girl, non-binary, it doesn't matter. Have a great day. Anyway, bye.